Welcome to the Broadway Buzz, your go-to podcast for all the latest Broadway news, drama, and insider conversations. I'm your host, Pierce Ream, bringing you everything from cast changes to behind-the-scenes stories and exclusive interviews with the people who make the theater magic happen. Whether you're a die-hard Broadway fan or just love a good backstage story, you're in the right place. Now, let's get into it. Today's guest is a rising star on Broadway, making waves with his incredible talent and heartfelt performances. Originally from Mexico City, he moved to the United States at just 11 years old and pursued his passion for theater, eventually earning a degree from Temple University. He made his Broadway debut in New York, New York, originating the role of Mateo Diaz, a character that beautifully represents the LGBTQ community. With an impressive background in regional theater and dedication to storytelling, he's quickly becoming a name to watch. Please welcome Angel Sigala. Hi, Angel. How's it going?
Hey, Pierce, that was such a beautiful introduction.
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna need
Thank
that.
you.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank you
send
so
it
much for
over, of
that.
course.
Oh
Yeah,
my
of
gosh.
course.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to get to chat with you today. And like I feel like we've known each other for like 2 years now. So like this is nice to
Yeah.
like sit down and get to talk.
Yeah, it is. It is. Thank you for being
Yeah.
my first guest. I'm really excited.
It's an honor. I'm so excited.
Okay, let's get into it.
Absolutely.
So before your big break, what was your relationship with theater like?
Before my big break, um, I was in theater. I started theater a little later in my life. I want to say high school. I tried out for like my middle school shows, but it just wasn't as um as I guess serious. Everyone who auditioned made it, and there were like 100 plus kids on stage. But it was fun. It was a really fun
Yeah.
experience, and I think there was a magic to that feeling being behind the curtain when there's a live audience out there, and I think that that's what got me so into it. Before that, I was dancing. I've been dancing since I was 6 years old. I did Mexican folklore back in Mexico. And then when I got to the United States, I studied hip hop, ballet, jazz. So that's always been a part of me, and music has been ingrained in me and in my family's story for so long. So it felt kind of right, to step into acting and singing all together at once. And once I got to explore my high school's theater program, I went to Plymouth High School. Shout out to PW in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania. Uh, we had a great theater program called Colonial Players, and we took it very seriously. The seniors that were there when I was a freshman kind of really reined us in. We're like, we do some of the best shows around town. We are going to, do our best work here, and it was so fulfilling. It was a very affirmative experience. And I did all the 8 shows through my 4 years of high school. And the last musical that I did was In the Heights,
Oh,
by Lin-Manuel
nice.
Miranda. And it was like picked for me. Like they wanted me so bad to be Usnavi. Uh, and I felt delighted to get to do that show. And then in that year I was like, okay, yeah, I think I want to do this for the rest of my life. And so I decided to go to college to study musical theater. I only auditioned for 2 schools. I didn't know what I was doing. But luckily I got into the school that I really wanted to go to, which was Temple. I just loved the culture, the community that was being built there. And I graduated 2018, and after that I stuck around Philly. I started working, luckily, while I was still in school. Shout out to Nancy Boykin, who are in the Philly area. Nancy Boykin is a fabulous actor, but she's also a great teacher. And she kind of gave me my first gig. She told me, "Hey, they're looking for somebody like you at Interact Theater Company in Philadelphia. Please go on an audition." And after that, I just kind of stuck around. Philadelphia's theater community is small, but it's really mighty. And luckily, once you're in there, people get to know you and call you in for things. So that was really nice. And I've kind of felt really comfortable there, but that dream of Broadway was always in the back of my head, and I want to say the front of my head. Like I really had dreams for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and aspirations for it. And I think, as an immigrant also, we chase this idea of the American dream right now. I'm not gonna lie, the American dream seems a little dim, but we're still fighting for it. I think that there's an opportunity to do theater here, to to tell stories that are important. And I feel like my story as an immigrant was, is important, and I want to share it with the world. So that kind of really has been driving me to continue my career. And when the opportunity for New York came up, it was like a perfect fit. It's an immigrant queer story. Um, they wanted somebody who spoke a little bit of Spanish, who did Latin dancing. This was everything that kind of connected to my identity. So seeing that listing for Mateo Diaz, which it was a national call, um, I saw it on Instagram, and then one of my old teachers sent it to me, and it just kind of felt like the universe was aligning in such a beautiful way. And then Lin-Manuel Miranda was attached to it, Susan Stroman, John Kander. These are people in the musical theater canon that have created such legacy. And for for this to be an opportunity even for me was really amazing, and it felt like something I couldn't pass up. And yeah, we auditioned for the show. We got in.
Yeah.
There we are.
Okay, yeah. Let me see. I have a fan question from Gio. How does it feel to represent the next generation of Latinx queer artists on stage?
Oh, um, it feels like such a beautiful opportunity, that I don't take for granted. I think that I if I looking back into my high school self, if I saw somebody like me on the stage, I would have been even more inspired. And um uh you know representation matters, and we know that, but I think seeing it is truly believing it. And I think seeing somebody um with that is, an immigrant that is part of minority groups, I think, get to a stage like a Broadway, was definitely an opportunity that I didn't want to take for granted. And I felt truly was important for me to take with ownership, but also like authenticity. I wanted more than anything to bring my fullest self, so as to give permissions for others to also bring their fullest selves into the work.
Yeah, yeah, that's really beautifully said. Do you
Thank
want
you.
to talk more about your process getting into the show just after being,
For sure, for sure.
yeah.
Getting to the show was rather quick, but beautiful too. Truly a dream come true. Once I submitted my headshot and resume for New York, which was John Carnahan casting, I sent in my a video of me singing my own music, which was a verse that no longer existed. It was something about it was a verse that just is no longer in the soundtrack. But I auditioned with that, and the first scene in the Mateo Diaz and Sofia Diaz household, which was also a little bit longer. I don't know if you saw any of the first previews. Like the scenes was definitely just a little longer. But once I submitted those videos, they called us in for in person, and that was November 30th and December 1st of 2022. And they wanted us to block those days out. So when we came in, it was like 26 of us, all Latinos, in New York City, and in from all over. Truly, there were people coming in from California, Texas, Arizona, um, and we kind of just all arrived here in a room in Berkeley Greer. And Susan Stroman walked in. We did a dance audition. After that, they made some cuts, and we sang and uh, acted some of the uh, some of the sides that we had. It was also my own music, the same cut that we auditioned with at first. And then I went home, and I stayed in New York for about 2 hours after that audition, and I went to the St. James Theater because I knew that it was going to play there. And I stood outside Into the Woods was still running, and I just kind of in awe, just was inspired by this huge space and by the energy in the city. It was also raining, and it was just kind of romantic to just be in New York City in the rain. Um, so I just really manifested me, booking this job. Um, I went to get some pizza, and as I was eating some pizza on 8th Avenue, I get a text from Sam, who is the associate music director, and he just texts, "Hey, are you available tomorrow? Just so you know, we're doing a new song. Here is a little attachment so you can start getting it ready." And it was gold. Um, and they had just finished writing it a few days prior, but they wanted us to sing a little cut of it, which was the end of it. It was about like 30 seconds of it. I prepared it that same night and I went back home into Philadelphia. I came back the next morning, uh, and we, from 26, we went down to three of us. And it kind of got real in that moment. And I remember going into the bathroom right before I had to go on and just kind of like locking in and,
Yeah.
truly just even feeling blessed to have gotten that far. I didn't think that I would have gotten that far, but I was really grateful. And we walk into the room and there's Susan Stroman and I do the song and she's like, "Great, awesome. John, do you have any thoughts?" And John, and like I turn around and I just didn't catch, there were so many people in the room. I didn't catch it. John Kander was sitting right there and he stands up, John Kander, 96 years old at the time, and so kind and just like with this bright face. And I like cursed. I was like, "Oh, damn." Or I said shit or something. I don't know. I cursed and everyone laughed in the room. So that kind of broke the ice. That was really nice. Um, and after that, we did some other sides, and the last thing that I did was Gold, which was brand new. They had some alternate notes also, but we like were playing around. One of the things that I really enjoyed about the this audition is that they went through the music with us, like they guided us through it because it was brand new and you could tell that they really cared about this piece and there was a lot of love around the work. Um, and I haven't had an audition quite like that since. But yeah, we sang through Gold, and I remember just looking out at the New York skyline, and they had the windows open at the studio. And as I sang the last note, it just kind of felt like no matter what happens, I was just so happy to have been in that room. Um, and it just felt right. It felt like a good, solid moment. I walked out, and then when I came back into the room, Susan Stroman told me that I had booked the show, and from there, I kind of had to very quickly find an apartment in New York, get my life together, because in 2 months I was going to start rehearsals for a Broadway show. And that truly did change my life, and in the most beautiful way. But also, with the stakes of a new show and such an anticipated show, and also being a principal for the first time on a Broadway stage, definitely came a lot of pressures and a lot of anxieties. But looking back at it now, I think it truly was a growing moment for me, and I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, I can see why you had anxiety working with all the Broadway stars. You were like a lead with them. It was a really, really great cast and great show. Were there any challenges that you faced as you started booking the roles, trying to audition for Broadway?
Any challenges? Well, yeah, I think the biggest challenge was getting over, your own hurdles. As performers, we can have a lot of insecurities, and we can be our harshest critics. So
Right.
I think, yeah, getting into the spaces and showing up authentically as yourself is the biggest hurdle. Um, because doing the work is just something that you have to do, right? Like making sure that you have your music correct, making sure that you are getting in your voice lessons if you need them, going to class, um, all of this, to get yourself up to a level of preparedness for any audition,
Yeah, yeah.
is sort of like the background work. And I would say like that is it's hard to get through. It's a hurdle itself, but it's also it's doable. I think it's the mental things that sometimes are a little harder for me to get through. And one of
Yeah.
those, yeah, well, being in the room with such legends that I look up to was that feeling of belonging. I had a bit of an imposter syndrome going into it, and I truly it took a lot of me, and it took a really nice support system that I had. I was so fortunate to have a great support system within the show and outside of it to really, hone in on the fact that I belonged there in that room with those people. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, they were just people who were happy to be there and loved their job, and I think that's what made it even more special.
Yeah, yeah. We have another fan question from
Mhm.
AP. How has your Mexican heritage influenced your performancing on stage?
Oh my goodness. Thank you for that question. I think that uh, I try to if the role itself is not Latine, or has a Latine identity, I try to bring it in somehow because I can't shy away from the fact that I am Latino. Once you look at me, you just see it. And I think that that just goes to, you know, to say a lot about the dynamics of racial identity within theater and in our country. Racial identity in the US specifically is very um it's very different than I think outside in a lot of other cultures. So I think here, the way that I'm seen in the industry is as very Latino and very Mexican. But if I were to probably like go to Mexico and audition there, I would probably be seen more like white again. And so it's a very different way that I'm looked at here in the US. So trying to play into that and try to open up spaces for others to do the same. I recently did a production of Hair where I played Wolf that is queer coded, but has nothing to do with Latina identity. However, our director, um, James Vasquez, who is Mexican, came in with an idea and I went with it. And essentially, we turned one of the numbers into a political stance with a lot of national flags. And mine was the Mexican one. And so I got to hold my Mexican flag up on a stage in a town that is very divided and that is very red and blue. And that was a very fulfilling moment. And one of the performances that I won't forget was a student matinee where a bunch of Latinos students came into the space, and as soon as I held that flag out, I could see like joy and spark in their eyes, and that's why we do it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I have another fan question from Bree. What are the best ways to prepare vocally for a show?
One of the best ways I think, for me, starting off with a nice steaming session or a little massage session around your throat, your back, even just all the muscles that we use for singing that can get really tired or tight when we practice a lot or when we're performing 8 times a week. So I always started out with massages, some steaming, and then after, you kind of cool down from that, then you start vocalizing. Matt Farnsworth, my vocal coach in New York City, always starts with like close like hum sounds. So like just those things, little vocalizations that start gently to wake up your voice that are kind of like hitting those vocal folds without like, being so intrusive. But it just kind of starts. It's a full day journey in order to be like warm, vocally. But please, vocalists, warm up. We have to warm up. We have to remember that. And that goes to myself too.
Now we're gonna talk about like an unexpected moment. Any unexpected moments? Was there any times like you felt completely sorry, my dogs are barking. Oh my gosh.
Oh, no worries. We love Puffy.
No, not for the podcast, we don't. Was there a time when something completely unexpected, good or bad, changed your path?
Well, let's talk about New York closing and super super soon, and like we were given a week's notice. That definitely changed the course of my life, at least in New York City, and it definitely changed uh sort of my view on the business. Um not that I didn't know, that our business was pretty tough and that at the end of the day it's a business. So if we're not making money, how are we going to sustain it? That's a really tough question. Um, but I think it came so unexpected for our show specifically because it was one of the most anticipated shows of the season. It was also one of the most expensive shows of the 2023 season. If I'm not wrong, I think we came to about $20 million budget and then 1.5 million to run every week, which is a lot. And then the St. James Theater, one of the biggest theaters on Broadway, you know, it it's hard to fill sometimes if the show is not doing so well. So I think there was a moment in around like June, July when the talk within our cast started to get a little murky and we were seeing that the grosses were not there. And so I could tell that the energy in the room kind of shifted. And I tried my best to like stay as present and keep, the spirits high because that affects the show, you know. Uh, but I think getting that notice, we were given an email, I believe, and we came in on a Sunday matinee. We finished the show, sorry. The curtain closed like right away, which never happened. Like the curtain came down right away, and we were told to stay in costume and to just circle up. And our producer, Tom, came in and told us, we are closing next week. We really tried our hardest to keep it open, but we were hit pretty brutally, not only in sales, but also in reviews. Um, and I think it was the smartest decision that they could make financially. And they tried to take care of us as much as we could. I think when we were done, they paid us even another week. They paid us out for another week, and then that was that. But it was such a quick process. And then after that, I saw a lot of shows also kind of go through a similar journey. Broadway went through a really difficult time recovering from the pandemic. Um, but I think it's coming. I think it's back. I mean, these past 2 seasons have been packed, and I'm just really hopeful that it continues to evolve and to I don't know. Even as we evolve, even maybe become a little bit more accessible for people so that it can stay alive. But I don't know. We'll see. That's
Yeah.
a bigger
I
question.
mean, I think Broadway will be back when Angel Sigala is back on Broadway. But yeah, no, that was crazy when they announced the show closing a week prior because like they they normally give the casts the notice before they give the audience and they just kind of like let everybody know at the same time, I feel.
Yeah, they did let us know
Yeah.
a
In
little
the hurdle. Yeah,
yeah,
right,
in
right,
the
right.
hurdle before
Yeah.
we told the audiences like they were like the post is gonna go live in like 30 minutes. So
Oh wow. Yeah.
but
At least you guys got that.
we got the heads up for sure,
Yeah.
and I was
I
able to
saw
tell
the
my family.
show. I saw the show that Saturday before they announced.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Yeah.
I have to ask you like your experience about seeing the show. Like how was that like? And
I loved it. I mean, it was really good. I was in the front row and
come on, front row.
it was my first Broadway show front row. I liked all
Hey,
the songs. I loved the opening number. I liked it all. I loved the closing number. I mean, it was just kind of like your classic Broadway show.
I agree. I
But
agree.
also it had the Hispanic flair to it where they don't normally have that. So,
Right.
yeah.
It was very New York in that way. Because yeah, we had the Hispanic uh uh storyline, and we also had a few others that just kind of came in and made up the fabric of New York City. It was
Yeah,
really
right.
but yeah, I'm glad you
Okay,
enjoyed it.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Another fan question from McCormick. What was your favorite moment performing in New York, New York, and how did the energy of each audience influence your performance?
Oh, my favorite moment of performing in New York, New York, would probably have to be very first preview. That was the most welcoming and nicest audience, and it made my Broadway debut that much more special. The energy in the room was ecstatic, and you could feel it. Like it was, I'm getting chills just thinking about that experience. Um, and I think that's the culture, at least on Broadway. We really take first previews to be a very exciting event. It's the first time that even some people are running the show fully for the first time without stopping. I know that was our case. We had run the show, but we did a dress rehearsal, but we had to stop a lot because our technical aspects were crazy. So this was the first time that we ran it without stopping, and thank goodness we did. But it was almost a 3 hour long show, so we worked it out after that.
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Naika asks, what was it like working with Lin-Manuel Miranda?
A pleasure. That's Theolin. That's my uncle now, and he knows it. Theolin is a very busy guy. Like he was super busy while he was in the process with us because he was working on other things, including the album Warriors that is out now, with Isa Davis, who which is kind of crazy. Isa and I worked like 4 months prior to my Broadway debut together. She had written this beautiful show called Mushroom about the Latina community in Kennett Square in Pennsylvania, mushroom pickers, farm workers. and it was such a special show. Um, and Isa herself is a beautiful person. Please keep watch out for her. But Lynn and her were really good friends, so it was really nice to kind of even have that connection. And it definitely took a minute to like get rid of my like fangirl face. I was like in the room just looking at him like, are you real? Like this is crazy. But after we got over that, he really was just such a cool guy. He was like, "Oh, we would compliment each other's haircuts and our shape ups, and um, yeah, I wish I got to like we got to like hone him in more, but he was a busy guy. But
Yeah.
he came in to see the show a lot. He brought his family, got to meet his kids. Yeah, he's a really cool person, very normal, very down to earth, who just loves what he does and is super talented. I'll tell you that.
Okay, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. If you could give any advice to your younger self before stepping into the Broadway world, what would you give him?
I know this is gonna sound cheesy, but like truly just be yourself, be authentically yourself. Um, especially I think in the musical theater world, we tend to pigeonhole ourselves to a certain type, to a certain vocal type, to a certain body type. Um, and then of course, you have your leading lady, leading man, your sidekick. We like to really place ourselves in a certain position, but I think that if you're just yourself, bring yourself into a space, I think that you'd be surprised how many other people will perceive you maybe as something completely different than what you thought, which could be nice. I mean, it could provide some perspective and some change. Um, and I think we shouldn't close ourselves, to what we think we are only good at or where we quote unquote belong. I think that if we're true to ourselves, horizons will open up and the opportunities are endless.
Yeah, I love that. How has your definition of success changed over time?
Oh, um, I think over time, success for me has become um, just being happy with the work that I'm doing and for it to have impact. Um, I think for me, success in my career now truly means um, changing one life, even, whether it is through a mutual experience that we've had in the space, in the theater space, or if it's even a conversation that we have afterwards. Um, right now, by the time that this podcast will be alive, I had just wrapped up run of Nora, A Doll's House, which is a play by Steph Smith. If you have not read it, I recommend it. Steph Smith is a Scottish playwright, uh, queer woman who is phenomenal and such a poet too. And I think getting to do a work like this that was very feminist in a time like today was very important, and a lot of conversations were brought up. And even though we're doing it in Rose Valley, Pennsylvania, and our audience is about 100 to 100 people, and sometimes we don't even get that every night, it's still a very important conversation to be had. And it's been so fulfilling to me. And I think that, having had experienced really big houses and really small houses, I think that for me now it's about just impacting one person and making sure that the work that we're doing is worth something.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a really good answer. Just
Thank you.
impacting one person is all that matters. So what's next for you and what stories are you excited to tell?
Oh, it's a great question. Next for me, I am personally more interested in film and TV work right now, which has been new to me. It's completely new. My first love is theater.
Yeah.
But I think that I see the pathway from a lot of fellow artists who have done it before me, and I am really invested in those stories because I think that accessibility to me now is really important. When I was on Broadway for our 3 months, there were a lot of community members who didn't get to see it because of price, because of distance. So I think film and TV, we have the opportunity here to bring work right to your screen, for it to become more accessible for people. like me in my community. So I'm very excited about that and excited to continue to tell authentic uh, queer and Latina stories. Um, I am, yeah, right now just really interested in that. We'll see what happens, Fierce. We'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah, well, everybody make sure to check out Angel and on the big screen, see what happens.
Uh, thank
Yeah,
you. Thank you.
thank you for today, Angel. I really appreciate
Pierce, it's a
everything.
pleasure. It's a pleasure. I'm so excited about this podcast and like anytime if you would like to have me back, I'd be glad.
Oh, I'd love to. I will definitely have you back.
Awesome. Awesome.
All right, thank you. And that's a wrap on today's episode. A huge thank you to the one and only Angel Sigala for sharing his journey, which led to such a great conversation. Thank you, Angel, again. Would you like to share your socials where people can find you?
Absolutely. Thank you everyone for listening. You can find me on Instagram at underscore Angel Sigala and on TikTok at Angel J Sigala.
Perfect. Give him a follow and check him out. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and follow to the Broadway Buzz on all streaming platforms. We're also on Instagram at BWay Buzz Podcasts for more Broadway news, interviews, and all the drama. You can also up with Angel on Instagram at Angel Sagala. And don't forget, you can listen to our podcast anywhere you get your podcasts. The next episode drops on April 20th, so stay tuned. Until then, see you next time. Thanks again, Angel.
Yay. Thank you. Bye everyone.